This is pretty much where all the magic is done. Oh, yeah. It's pretty sweet. This is a 394. This is the masterpiece that my dad helped come up with. Well, I'm happy, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I never thought I'd hit 350. I don't think even when I was dreaming.
394 was his highest batting average.
And he's going to line that one to left field. Gwynn absolutely scorched that ball.
Now hitting 409.
A drive to right field, there's no doubt about this, and a home run for Tony Gwynn.
These are things that my dad, if he were here, would be really trying to dive into. So we're just really trying to keep his spirit alive.
See, all I gotta do is go like this.
The amazing Tony Gwynn hitting up into the 390s.
And he's going to line that one to left field.
Amazing getter.
394, it's part of the mission to never let his legacy go away.
Line drive, base hit, center. Safe!
And there it is.
Hi, I'm Tony Gwynn, the San Diego Padre.
Can I tell you a quick story? Please. All right, we're in Cincinnati. Now I'm coaching at this time. We're in Riverfront, raining.
It doesn't look too good right now, though. It's been raining pretty hard here in Cincinnati.
We go back out to start again. They're ahead 2-0. They bring in a left-hander.
Well, the left-hander in faced left-hander Tony Gwynn.
And Tony comes to hit. And the left-hander hadn't even thrown a pitch yet, and the skies open up. Game suspended.
It is a torrential downpour right now, and that's it. So Tony Gwynn will have to wait.
That means the next day, the same lineup has to start. We're walking up the tunnel at Riverfront, going up to the clubhouse, and he turns to me and goes, "Hey, Flan, tomorrow this guy is going to throw me a first pitch slider. I'm going to hit it in the left center field gap. The score is going to be tied. Be ready." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, whatever. Okay, Tony, all right." Sure enough, the next evening,
Here's Tony Gwynn.
first pitch, slider, bangs it in the left center field.
He's got a base hit.
Both runs score. He gets to second base and goes. He knew what the pitcher was going to throw him before the pitcher knew what he was going to throw.
The museum part of this facility came about really because they wanted to honor my dad somehow. If you're a baseball fan or a Tony Gwynn fan, you can walk right into that museum and feel like he's in the building almost. These are kind of just some things he gathered over time, things that happened in his career. A lot of really, really cool memories, though.
For those who knew him, and for those who simply watched him, the memories are still as strong as ever. Memories of a personality that always seemed to be bursting with pure joy for the game. Of an icon who decided there was only one place he wanted to play for 2 decades. And perhaps the greatest hitting talent an entire generation of baseball ever saw.
High and deep to right field. He's gone.
Tony, he's an artist.
A single up the middle.
His stroke was gorgeous.
And he bangs it up the middle. Base hit.
He's one of the great hitters of all time. A tremendous feel for a little over here, a little over here.
Unbelievable.
It wasn't just hand-eye and eyesight. It was up here, you know. Just a genius on the baseball field.
That's it. The whole goal is to put the ball in play. And put the ball in play hard. That's, I guess, it's the ultimate.
The beat rolls on as he's run his average up to 389. And Tony Gwynn's third hit.
If you're going to hit like he did, 340, 50, 60, 70, 80, you know the mental discipline, toughness to go up there and not throw at-bats away?
As Gwynn does it again.
He always talked about hitting 400. He said that's a goal.
He drives the ball.
He hit balls hard all the time, and nobody could get him out.
Oh, doctor! You can hang a star on that, baby! A star for the ages for Tony Gwynn.
All those hits eventually added up to 3,141 in total. And along the way, 15 All-Star selections.
Number 19, Tony Gwynn.
8 National League batting titles. and a career batting average of .338, all of which got him 97.6% of the votes in his first chance at the Hall of Fame. And it was all belied by a humility that somehow always felt authentic.
Can you explain to me how come your rapper looks so good and mine looks so ordinary? I'm not one of the icons of the game.
Look at his face. Look at yours.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay, good enough for me. You know, I'm just a guy that goes out there and tries to get it done as best I can.
You could call Tony Gwynn an anti-superstar superstar. He didn't look like one on the field, and he didn't act like one anywhere he went.
Tony Gwynn ranks two ways. All-time great people, right here. I mean, you're not gonna find anybody better. All-time great baseball players, there's a bunch of them, but he's right there too.
I'm just happy to be here, okay. I'm telling you.
Well, Tony, most of us mortals have been in a situation where we've had some
You start with the cold hard facts, the .338 lifetime, the 8 batting titles. But there was something else about Tony Gwynn that made him relatable and endearing.
What a day, what a game, what a country.
If you were central casting and you were looking for someone to play a baseball hero, at least by physical type, he might not be the guy. But he was so down to earth. He was approachable.
Thank you. Thank you.
For a guy that was as big as Tony was, he never acted that way. He was the most approachable big-time star I've ever been around.
Hi, I'm Tony Gwynn of the San Diego Padres. All right, guys.
Good luck this season.
Thank you. Thank you.
As a young kid, I wanted to be just like Tony Gwynn. I wanted to be a professional baseball player. I wanted to play for the Padres.
Hit the ball right, girls out front.
Tony always made an extra effort to be a role model.
Practice, practice, practice.
I remember this birthday specifically because that was the big highlight for that birthday, was getting the Tony Gwynn poster and the Tony Gwynn wristbands with his face on there. And I was decked out, you know. The impact it had on me is priceless.
I see you're out here early again.
The thing about Tony is when he walked in the room, he just lit up the room.
Good morning. Okay, it is 7:45.
Smile in his face, always smiling.
That's just who my dad was. He always went out of his way to make people feel comfortable, whether that be fans, other baseball players.
Oh, serve at the right field, master.
He just was always full of joy. You wanted to be around him.
It's picture day, it's picture day.
My dad just enjoyed people. He enjoyed life. He enjoyed talking.
And as you can see, nobody's standing around me. I'm out here talking to myself.
It's a big part of what makes his story so unforgettable, that he loved talking as much as he loved hitting, that his spirit and his voice were as distinctive as his swing.
Who knows what might happen today, you know? And Freddie got the wrong loft on his club. It's the truth.
Oh, it was a unique voice, and you knew when Tony was around, you could hear his voice.
My wife's on the phone? Gotta go, y'all.
You could hear his voice, high-pitched and cackles.
You know, he can do it all. Oh, yeah, I know I'll be nervous. Unbelievable, no.
I tell you, man. That was his talking trash. I tell you, man.
Let's wait for the helicopter. This week, you betcha. You're gonna get a pitch to hit, so why?
He said things like, man, just pick out a cookie and let it fly. You gotta get a fastball, it's gonna be right there, let it fly. You know? And it was just so funny. You knew it was Tony Gwynn. He was so unique.
Because every little kid who picks up one of my bats, they say, oh, yeah, I can swing this. And they could. It's not that big. It's just what you do with it. See, that's the key.
All these years later, it's important to remember just how alive Tony Gwynn always was, if only to remind yourself how much was lost when he was taken far too soon.
I'm still a little shocked that he's not here.
It's like I feel it couldn't have happened. It didn't happen. It can't happen. But it happened. So now, as a broadcaster for the Padres, I think of him every game. Every game.
I met Tony when he was about 10. I wanted to play kickball, and it was all guys, and they wouldn't let me play, and he stopped and said she could play. Ever since I've known him, he was always real kind, and that's when we became friends.
Tony Gwynn's road in life and in baseball started about 100 miles north of San Diego, in Long Beach, California. He was the middle child in a family of 3 boys, and his brothers, Charles and Chris, knew from the beginning he had a gift.
In the backyard, Charles and I we still talk about it to the day. Could never get him out. Sliders, fastballs, changeups, right back at your head.
Tony loved the game of baseball. He had a passion for it, but basketball was really Tony's sport. In high school, he was the point guard. Long Beach Poly was the champion, seemed like every year. But Long Beach Poly wasn't very competitive in baseball at that time.
And I think he was thinking about not playing, which is hard for me to even think about. My mom, she made him continue to play. You're gonna need baseball one day, is what she said.
But when Tony graduated high school in 1977, baseball didn't seem to need him. He went undrafted and didn't get any offers to play in college. Basketball, though, was a different story. And Tony got a scholarship to play guard at San Diego State University.
This guy could play. I mean, to this day, he holds the assist all-time record at San Diego State.
I saw him play against DePaul, Kansas, and all these big-time basketball schools. I saw him play against Danny Ainge all the time, because Danny Ainge was at BYU. And I saw him, hold his own. I mean, he was good.
So good, in fact, and so important to his team, that his coach wouldn't let him join the baseball team, insisting that Tony focus entirely on basketball, at least until his junior year.
I always thought the basketball coaches were trying to keep him a secret.
But word ultimately leaked when the Aztecs' top baseball recruit, Bobby Meacham, arrived on campus in 1979.
I had known Tony because of playing against him in summer ball, but hadn't seen him in a while. And then as I was sitting here talking to Jim Dietz in his office, I saw somebody walking by, and I said, wait, is that Tony Gwynn? I'm like, oh, wow, great. So, we'll be better. He goes, no, he's not playing baseball. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I said, this guy's the best baseball player I've ever played against.
Bobby Meacham told me about this young man, and I said, okay. But the problem is he's playing basketball.
We talked to Tony, and Tony's like, I'd love to play, but I can't.
His reaction was, yeah, I want to, but I'm afraid of the basketball coach. I think that was his exact words.
He was stuck.
I said, Tony, I'll go and talk with the coach. Then I kept kind of working on him. And then he finally said, yeah, go ahead, give it a try. So we tried.
And Gwynn's college baseball debut in the middle of that '79 season would become part of his legend.
I was concerned about him not swinging a bat for 2 or 3 years, but it was just line drive after line drive after line drive.
He had not had batting practice, had not really gotten into it, had not trained, and he went over there and went 3 for 4.
After about a week or two, he's got just as many RBIs as I do. He's just as many hits as I do. I mean, it's just crazy how good he is.
From there was no turning back. And over the next 2 years, he played both sports at San Diego State.
The agreement was that Tony couldn't play baseball until the basketball season was over.
He would play his last basketball game and then come out to baseball the next day.
You come out from basketball, you're running all year, and then you come out here and you start playing games right away, and you're playing all the time, and you're missing a lot of school. It's rough, but if you want to do it, you really have to concentrate at what you're doing.
In 1981, all Gwynn's work and all his talent caught the eye of the San Diego Padres' new general manager, Jack McKeon.
We always had an annual exhibition game with the Padres and the Aztecs day before opening day. I'm sitting up in the box with the athletic director, and Tony comes up, hits a double, watch him run the bases. Comes up the next time, hits a triple. I said, who the hell is this guy? He said, that's Tony Gwynn. I said, where's he been? I've seen you play 15 games. I haven't seen this guy. He said, he just came out last week. I said, this is the best guy on that field. And that was including major leaguers as well.
Sure enough, on June 9th, 1981, Tony Gwynn was drafted by San Diego twice as both a baseball and basketball player.
Big day in the Gwynn household that day. He got drafted by the Padres, then the Clippers, who were in San Diego then.
I mean, it was the story here that he got drafted by both local teams.
Not being a big guy, he chose baseball. What would have been interesting if Tony was a 6'6" guard. Would he have gone with basketball, his first love? We'll never know that.
The same week he got drafted, we got married. He was just so happy, and I remember him saying, I'm gonna work hard, I'm gonna work hard. I'm probably gonna play about 5 years, and then I'll go on to do something else. He never thought he would be that good.
But as soon as he turned pro, those doubts were overpowered by his play. Gwynn would fly through the minors in 1981, winning a batting title and league MVP award. The next season, barely a year out of college, he was in the majors and attracting the attention of all-time greats.
Tony's playing his first game against the Phillies, gets his first hit, and Pete Rose says, "Hey, kid."
Pete Rose comes up to me and shakes my hand and says, you're trying to catch me after one night, and the whole atmosphere of that was really nice.
In his first full season in the majors, 1983, Tony Gwynn was greeted by a totally unfamiliar experience, a hitting slump. To find a way out, he turned to something commonplace now, but unheard of then.
When you talk about the video today, I consider him the father of the video clubhouse.
See, the first thing I do when I'm hitting is I check my front foot.
When Tony had his first hitting slump, and I remember we had bought a beta machine for little Tony because we wanted to tape him out in the backyard.
We hooked it up, it's been hooked up through the TV, and we really hadn't even used it. And this one day, I was struggling, and I asked my wife to tape my bats while we were on the road trip. That's a good swing right there. Front foot is locked in.
He would say, "Leash, can you go look at bat number 2 and tell me what I'm doing wrong?"
His wife was probably the best hitting instructor of anybody because she knew exactly what he did to find success, and she could look at the video and they would discuss it.
And when he goes to shortstop, in order to hit the inside pitch, I really have to get my hands through in a hurry.
We became a team, I wasn't out there hitting, but we became a team.
See, that's kind of like what I do best right there, is just take the inside fastball and fight it off and hit it the other way.
He was relentless with the studying of it. In fact, we lost him as a poker player because of the video. So we used to kid about that, this video's killing our poker game.
Solid front leg, heads down on the ball, perfect.
The next year, 1984, would be historic for both number 19 and his club, establishing the roots for what would be an everlasting bond between the emerging superstar and his adopted hometown.
His love affair started in '84. He was very attuned. He didn't come from here. He came from Long Beach, but he went to San Diego State, and he was like a native son based on that. They adopted him for that.
Well, I'm kind of partial to Tony Gwynn because he went to San Diego State. That's why I go.
He loved the city. They loved him back. And I think '84 put Padre baseball on the map.
The Padre franchise turned 15 in '84, and they came into it still looking for their first ever winning record.
As we go into the '84 season, we had acquired some players, Steve Garvey, Goose Gossett, and Greg Nettle. So now it's a different club. Their mindset, their confidence.
I came over here to help win a pennant. I'm not going to win it all by myself.
So as the season goes, we got Alan Wiggins and Tony Gwynn. It was really these two guys ignited this club.
Alan Wiggins led off. Alan very fast. And Tony Gwynn wasn't Tony Gwynn yet to that point. So they're worried about Wiggins, and they're feeding fastball after fastball to Tony Gwynn. And he's turning on that stuff and hits 350. And all of a sudden, wow, it all comes together.
Tony Gwynn just continues to amaze.
It was Tony's first year where he felt like he kind of really knew he belonged.
Gwynn propelled the Padres to a franchise record 92 wins and earned his first All-Star selection, his first batting title, and his first Silver Slugger Award.
Although he was doing all these things and leading the world and hitting and everything, it was about us winning. He was so excited about the San Diego Padres having a chance to win for the first time ever.
The Padres cruised into the playoffs, winning their first division title by 12 games. And after they erased a 2-game deficit against the Cubs in the NLCS, the knockout blow came off the bat of San Diego's emerging superstar.
Hard, Sandberg over his head to right center field, base hit. Here comes Wiggins. Here comes the front of the plate. He's safe.
The Padres had never gone to the World Series or won a pennant. So we were the first to do that in San Diego.
To have him blossom in '84 and lead us to the World Series was something special.
Though the Padres would fall to the Detroit Tigers in 5 games in the World Series, for Gwynn and the city of San Diego, a love affair was just beginning.
Tony's whole desire from that point on, I believe, was to go back to another World Series and win for San Diego. He became part of the city and part of the Padre organization.
And in what would become a recurring theme in his career, Gwynn expressed his loyalty by signing a team-friendly contract extension a month after the World Series.
After '84, he had absolutely no intention to ever be a free agent, and he always took what they call the San Diego discount, where he thought he could have been making more, and he could have been making more without question. But to him, it was anathema to think about leaving San Diego.
So with his contract guaranteeing he'd stay a Padre for at least the rest of the '80s, Gwynn focused on improving upon his breakout season by working on his skills away from the plate.
When we first drafted Tony Gwynn, he could hardly throw the ball from his right field position to second base.
I talked to him one day and I said, "What would you like to be, Tony?" "I want to be a Gold Glove outfielder. I want to be recognized as a good base stealer." And he said, "I know I'm a good hitter."
Whenever you hear Tony Gwynn, the first thing you hear is hitting, 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 hitting. And I just want to be remembered as a complete ball player, that's all.
There's a looping fly ball, shallow right. Tony Gwynn is there. Renicky is going to try it. Here's the throw. He's going to be out.
It was just amazing to see him turn into this force defensively.
Nice play by Gwynn. Man, you can hang a star on that, baby.
He became that total, complete superstar once he understood the defense.
And for the remainder of the 1980s, no one was a more successful individual performer than Tony Gwynn. He won 3 straight batting titles from 1987 to '89, 3 more Silver Slugger awards, and 3 Gold Gloves as well.
We could tell Tony was a lot more special than any of us, that's for sure. Could I tell you that he was going to win this many batting titles and this many Gold Gloves? No. There should have been another league for him to go to, but the major leagues is the last one.
I've always been a big fan of these silver bats. Like, you win a batting title, you get a silver bat. I remember one point they were talking about if he got to 400, he asked him if he'd get a gold bat. And they was like, "Ooh, something we'll discuss."
After 4 batting titles and 5 All-Star appearances in the 80s, Tony Gwynn continued to shine at the plate in the 90s. And of all his great seasons, none was better than Gwynn's bid for history in 1994.
There's a patented Tony Gwynn hit right there. Ground ball, base hit. That guy can flat out hit.
Really amazing to watch him that year, '94. I mean, he really did have a chance to hit 400. We all felt it.
The thing about Tony that stands out, I think he'd get a hit whenever he wanted to, wherever he wanted to. He positioned the defense, and he'd step out for me, he'd look around, and I said, "Oh, here it comes."
Tony Gwynn strikes again.
I said, "Shortstop, we should move more to the middle." Bam, base at the middle.
Future Hall of Famer just can't be stopped.
Could hit it where he wanted.
This year just been unbelievable. Everybody seems to think you're the guy, you could do it. More than anybody else, you can do it. And, you know, I don't know.
It was about June, we're playing the Padres. And he's hitting about 360.
1 for 3 tonight, towards the hole and through. The beat rolls on as he's run his average up to 389.
And then we played him again in August. He's at 390. To make a move like that, you know, he was gonna do it.
On the Field of Dreams, a giant anti-climax. Yes, the baseball season is over.
The '94 strike ended the baseball season in August, cutting short Gwynn's run at 400.
I remember, you know, he would just laugh. I would joke with him about it. And I said, "Well, I told you all along that you had no chance of hitting 400. You know, it's too big a number for you. You couldn't do it," because I always tease him about that because I knew darn well he could. And finally he said, "You know what? That's the only way that I wasn't going to hit it."
That's rare for my dad to ever admit anything like that. Because that question would come up often, like, do you think you could have hit 400 that year?
I don't know.
He was pretty adamant that he would have. He said, I think I could have. I was in a zone where it just didn't matter what they were throwing up there. He felt good enough, he was gonna hit everything.
At 394, for what it was worth, Gwynn fell 3 hits shy of 400. 3 hits shy of joining one of his idols, a fellow San Diegan and kindred spirit.
It's the winter in between the 94 and 95 season. And we sit Tony and Ted down for a joint interview.
Just sitting here listening to him speak, you know, I all ears.
Ted was a very, imposing figure, and I will never forget. It started out, where he just with this, booming voice would just say.
That's where baseball history's made, from the middle in,
And Ted, who loved to do this, started posing questions to Tony.
If you were underneath, were you early or late? I mean, if you're underneath the pitch, what are you, generally early or late?
Tony was like a kid in the back of the room in the 4th grade, hoping A, the teacher doesn't call on him, and B, please God, if the teacher does, let me get the answer right.
Well, see, that's different with me. I say late.
I say late, too.
Okay. See, I hit the ball the other way.
In the corner, I was going, yes, yes. It was like I was pulling for him. He didn't need anybody rooting or pulling for him.
I like your line. History is made.
All right, remember on your big next salary raise, don't forget about it.
Ted, thank you. Great to see you.
Good luck, Tony.
All right.
So Major League history is made on the ball inside, and your my brain starts to tick. I'm trying to figure out what he meant. And when I did, I realized I was going to be a much better hitter from that point on, and I was.
In the years following 94, Gwynn's brilliance somehow did grow. He hit above 350 for 3 straight years and hit with more power he put on display back on the game's brightest stage.
That's one of the most vivid memories I have, sitting in the stands with my family. I remember we were sitting right across from Denzel and Bruce Willis, and little Tony, he was really giving them the business.
My brother is a big trash talker, and they were just going back and forth.
Me and these fans were going back and forth, and then my dad hit that homer.
Ripped down the right field line at the track at the wall, gone!
I mean, I don't think I've screamed any louder at a baseball game than that moment.
Tony Gwynn goes deep with his first postseason home run to put San Diego out in front 4-2.
I don't think I had ever seen my dad smack a ball that hard before. It was like, top dead? Okay. All right, Dad.
To me, that's the biggest hit I got, because in the World Series, there's no bigger stage than playing in Yankee Stadium.
Gwynn would hit 500 in that series, but the Padres were swept, making them 0-2 in the Fall Classic over his career.
He did all he could to help us win. We just ran into a juggernaut, but I think, the country saw how great Tony Gwynn was in that World Series.
The following season, all eyes again fixed on Gwynn as he approached one of the game's most storied milestones.
The pitch. There's a drive, right center field, base hit, and there it is! Oh, doctor! You can hang a star on that, baby! A star for the ages for Tony Gwynn, number 3,000.
That's it. That's 3,000, and then this rush of guys coming over to congratulate you. Somebody said, look who's behind you, and I turn around and it's my mom. To me, this is the way it was supposed to be done.
That year also created one of Gwynn's greatest baseball memories. At the All-Star Game, an all-century team celebration at Fenway Park with an old friend.
Now for the first pitch. Ted Williams.
Where is he?
Right there.
Oh, all right.
See, his eyesight bothers him a bit, so he's asking Gwynn to help him out in that department. He got it up there.
That's my favorite moment in this game. To be the last guy standing out there with Ted Williams as he threw out the first pitch was a pass. It was a pass. He was so happy. He said, did you see they wanted me to do it? Did you see that? How cool is that, Leish? How cool is that?
2 years later, a 41-year-old Gwynn, battling injuries, announced his retirement. His final game would be a salute from the San Diego faithful.
I remember how tough it was for him to say goodbye. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Even after the game was finished, all the people were like staying there because they wanted to get another glimpse of my dad, and it was just surreal. Like all these people that just love my father. It was it just speaks to who he is.
After his retirement from the Padres in 2001, Tony Gwynn didn't stay idle for long. A year later, he returned to his alma mater as the Aztecs' head coach.
He came to me and asked me, what do you think if I coach? I said, well, the stadium's named after you. I think it would be pretty easy.
Okay, we're not just hitting the baseball, we're hitting through the baseball.
What parent wouldn't want their kid to go to college and have Tony Gwynn teach him how to play the game?
Well, at the beginning, it was very hard for him. I said, no, you're going to have to learn patience because everybody is not going to get out of bed hitting like you, and you have to understand that.
As soon as he lifts his foot, my first step is back.
He began to talk to the kids and began to teach them. Besides his family, that was his heart.
But family wasn't too far away at work, thanks to a young outfielder named Tony Gwynn Jr.
My dad didn't want to name me Anthony. That was my mom's gig. And I think he was afraid that the pressure might be too much. When I got to state my freshman year, my first game out, I went by Tony Jr. I think I went 0 for 4, immediately changed that to Anthony.
See, it was like, Leash, people are giving him the business, and I don't want my son to get the business. You should have named him Tony Jr. And I said, he'll be just fine.
Tony Jr. was the first of several players to make the big leagues out of his dad's program, and the others that followed included the kid who dressed like Tony Gwynn growing up, dreaming of being just like him.
When I got there, I saw my childhood idol. He kind of half-heartedly said, you guys got to get over it. It's not Tony Gwynn, Mr. Padre, it's Coach Gwynn.
The future top overall pick, Steven Strasburg, arrived on campus in 2007 as a work in progress.
It wasn't like I was coming in as like a top prospect. I wasn't on any prospect sheets. I thought I bit off more than I could chew.
Steven had some challenges with his, fitness, his strength. I kept telling him, I think he's going to quit. And we're all worried about that. And he's like, I got it.
I remember, Tony just kind of pulling me aside.
What Tony taught Steven was just embracing the grind.
I was definitely shocked. This is Tony Gwynn. This is a guy that I watched on the TV my whole life. To get that encouragement from him was huge.
And I can tell you, by the time he was a junior, he outworked everybody in the country.
If it wasn't for Coach Gwynn, would I have gone on to get drafted my junior year and yada, yada, yada? Probably not. He was like a second father to me.
Tony Gwynn had found his second calling, though in the winter of 2007, 5 years after he'd retired, everyone's focus was back on everything Mr. Padre did with the bat.
For whatever reason, my dad he never thought that it was a lock for him to get into the Hall of Fame.
They call me future Hall of Famer, certain Hall of Famer, first time I never take it for granted. I'm flattered people mention my name. Well, I was a complimentary player. I wasn't a game changer.
It makes me laugh. He geared himself up for great disappointment.
And so, on Hall of Fame Election Day 2007, despite those 3,141 hits, 15 All-Star appearances, and 8 batting titles, Tony Gwynn wasn't convinced he'd get the call from Cooperstown.
They said the call's going to come at 10:30 or something. And Tony's sitting in a corner saying, they're not going to call. It's not going to be today.
My agent is talking in the background. I can hear him. Oh, it's going to rain. Don't even worry about it.
Well, at 10:31, there had been no call yet. And Tony's, and then the phone rings. And his first thing is, don't pick it up. And I get, wait, that's the call.
Hello?
Hello, may I speak with Tony, please?
This is Tony.
Tony, this is Jack O'Connell with the Baseball Writers Association from New York City. How are you today?
I'm good.
Tony, I'm calling to tell you that the baseball writers have elected you to the Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
When they made the phone call, you could just see like the weight being lifted off.
He exhaled and was like, wow, like I've made it.
He said, I never thought this would happen. Can you believe this, Leash? Hard to believe, isn't it? And I said, no, you were just that good.
I only know one way, that's the Padre road. I'm proud as heck to be a San Diego Padre. I played for one team, I played in one town. I told the people of San Diego they were going to be standing up here with me, so I hope they're just as nervous as I am.
Tony Gwynn was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in the summer of 2007. But 3 years later came the news. Gwynn was diagnosed with oral cancer. For those who knew him well, the cause was no surprise.
He always had a dip. It would just be sticking out of his lip.
Chewing tobacco, it's a generational deal. That generation of guys constantly had a dip or had bubble gum wrapped around tobacco. It was just part of what you did.
Everybody did. They always go, you can't tell him.
I remember being a victim of red Dixie spit cups that were left around the house, thinking that it was maybe some juice I had poured.
We all had dip on us. In the early years, we thought it was a safe alternative to smoking.
I distinctly remember the reps always saying, oh no, this is not cigarette smoking. And I never believed anything that they said because I said it's tobacco.
Nowadays, there's precautionary warnings. When he first got on that, there were no precautionary warnings. That was after the fact. But that was after the fact that he already had an addiction to it.
I remember my mom fussing at my dad quite often about leaving those cups around, and eventually that turned into, why are you doing it? It's disgusting. There were a couple times he tried to quit and wasn't very successful.
He was the poster child for addiction. Constantly trying to quit, using the synthetic, using whatever.
He just couldn't. It was part of his routine. He had to have a dip.
The woman at the convenience store near his house, when he would go, she would badger him. Tony, what are you doing? Why are you buying that stuff? Don't you know it's bad? Yeah, I know. I'm gonna quit.
I remember he was almost in tears one time. He said, I can't stop.
When did you first notice that he was sick?
Me and my mom were watching him do something on TV, and she kept saying, you know, the side of his face was growing. She was like, you gotta get that checked.
You know, he would feel sluggish and just didn't feel good. And finally he went, and when they did the biopsy, took it out, they said it was cancerous.
My mom calls me and drops that on me, and I was crushed. It
was like the world just stopped. It's like, what?
All of us that knew Tony, we were just stunned. I mean, here's a star that we look at, it's almost immortal, and here he is sick.
The wound where the surgery wasn't healing 100%. There was a bandage all the time. It was just, he wasn't himself.
It was difficult, the ups and downs. The cancer kept coming back. But you know what? He never complained.
The one thing that I know that kept him positive and driven was our 35 boys in our program, and he wanted to be here every single day, and he would go to chemo in the morning and he'd come to practice.
That was his love. He didn't want to let the boys down, and he could barely get around, but he wanted to go.
At that point, he started to see like kind of the effect that it was taking on his body. It was really, really sad to see.
The last time when they told him the cancer had came back, he was just done. He didn't want to do any more treatments. He didn't want to be weak. He said, if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna do it my way. That's what he said.
Do you remember the last conversation you had?
It wasn't really a conversation. He was just like, I want to listen to some music. I want some funk. So I put I don't know what I put on. I think I put like some Commodores or something on, and he was just tapping his feet, clapping his hand, and he was just having a good time.
That I loved about Tony. Even up until the end, he was still happy. He was still Tony, and I remember he said to me, Leash, I just got to know that you're going to be okay. He said, you carry on. And he said, don't let the people forget about me.
4 years after being diagnosed with oral cancer, Tony Gwynn passed away at the age of 54.
Major League Baseball today mourns the tragic loss of Tony Gwynn, the greatest Padre ever. He has gone all too soon.
When I got that call, it was, I don't know. There are no words.
That was sad, sad.
I can remember how quiet it was around this athletic area. And I just remember that, you know, it was a very, very sad day for us.
It was difficult for all of San Diego. The Tony Gwynn statue at Petco Park. I remember the outpouring, the days after he died, of all the flowers there.
It was overwhelming. Like, I knew my dad was a great person, and I knew that he was one of the most genuine people. But to see people outside feel the same way that I do, it was just like, wow.
I had a guy who came up to me, he said, my heart really aches right now, and I never met your husband. And he said, I really, really miss him. He said, this city has a void right now.
Gravesite I visited one time said, to live in hearts we leave behind is not to die. And this guy lives in hearts behind that he left in San Diego, big time.
My dad kind of had that infectious thing about him that even if you didn't know him, you felt like you knew him.
Tony's life is a perfect lesson on how to live it. One of the most signature things about Tony that everybody understood is that laugh.
Can you do his laugh?
I can't. You got to get that hoarseness of the throat.
It started way down deep in his gut, and it worked its way up.
Yeah. I can't. I've tried. You cannot replicate it.
He was uplifting. 700! Just to be around him. That's why people loved him.
That incredible laugh that I keep on my phone, by the way. It's the laugh. It's the person. Then the ball player.
Hey, hey, number 19, running in the right field, grass so green. When you played that game, you played to win. I'm talking about Tony Gwynn. He lived to play the beautiful game.
He was real. He was a superstar that was like every man.
My life will never be this.
You could see from day one, he was so much better than everyone else.
5-5 hole with a perfect slap and the ball would fly off.
I got to see Tony Gwynn bat 4 or 5 times a game for 20 years. That's something you tell your grandchildren.
Hey, hey, number 19, running in the right field.
He did it the Tony Gwynn way. He did it the right way, and that should be his legacy forever.
Line drive, center field, there it is, number 3,000 for Tony Gwynn. I love you, Tony Gwynn. Oh yeah, bless you, Tony Gwynn.
Hey, hey, number 19. Running on the grass so green. When you play to win. And I'm talking about Tony Gwynn. Cut.
Stand by. Anytime.
Now, I just want all you fans out there to know, coming from me, no script, no nothing. This is from the heart. It has been absolutely wonderful playing Major League Baseball for the last 20 years. Having the opportunity to mingle and talk to you fans, I know I've enjoyed it. I hope you have too. And so with that, I say goodbye and thank you.